Rodgers about his incredible reunion with his mother, which forms the basis of a new book. Welcome back. Taken away by police for begging at the age of 2, it was the start of 30 years of hell for the mother of our next guest.
The story of Bridget Rodgers is undoubtedly one that needed to be told, and now her son JP has written a book detailing her remarkable life. Good morning, JP.
Morning.
As Mark just said there, she was 2 years of age and begging for alms in Chancery Street, and she was taken into care.
That's right.
Tell us the story from there.
Well, she was taken into, she was charged with begging at 2.5 years of age here in Dublin.
Why her rather than, say, her parents?
Well, I suppose they didn't know who her parents was. They literally picked her up off the street.
Really?
Yeah, down in near the Smithfield Markets area.
Okay.
And the judge saw fit to send her away till she was 16, with the provision that she wouldn't be fostered out or adopted or anything else like that.
So she was almost, she had a criminal record, did she?
She had a criminal record, and of course in one of the little notes that goes with it, previous behaviour good, which I thought was quite...
She could hardly talk.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But she was sent into St. Joseph's Industrial School in the west of Ireland.
What happened to her parents? I'm interested to... was she separated from her parents forever then, or...?
We never found out what happened to her parents or where they came from. I only found out a few years ago that she was actually picked up off the street when I was researching it as part of my book.
So conceivably they could have left her there with a begging bowl or something?
They could have left her. The chances are that they were walking in the market area, somewhere like that, but somebody decided, well, they'd report this child that was crying or begging for alms on the street, and therefore she was just taken away.
So they may have left their child there thinking, OK, well, look, the baby might get a bit of food or a bit of something, and we'll be across the road, or somebody will keep an eye on her or whatever, and came back 20 minutes later or half an hour later and found that their child was gone.
Yeah, something like that. We'll never know the answer to that, unfortunately.
Extraordinary.
So then she was sent to...
Then she was sent to St. Joseph's Industrial School in the west of Ireland, in Clifton.
In Clifton, yeah.
Yeah, and from there then she was sent out to work at 16 years of age, and unfortunately she wasn't in a very good place, and she got into difficulties, and
She got pregnant with you at what age?
She got pregnant with me at about 17, I would say.
Right, and then she was sent to the Magdalen Laundry?
And then she was sent to the Magdalen Laundry, and she remained there for a long number of years till she managed to escape with a few of her friends.
Over the wall?
Over the wall, literally climbed over the wall, yeah.
And she was 32 at this stage?
She was 32 years of age, and she had spent 29 years of her life in institutions.
Basically in prison, because from what we know now of the Magdalen Laundries and of a lot of the institutions, I mean, you were locked up and that was the end of it.
I was locked up and that was the end of it. So I decided that I was going to write a book from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
The people, the way they felt when they were inside in the institutions.
So she went to England then, just to finish the story, she went to England after she escaped from the Magdalen Laundry?
Yes, right.
And how did you end up meeting up, or what happened between the two of you?
Well, when she was put into the Magdalen Laundry, she was a very wily person and very, very determined, and she determined to know where I was. So by hook or by crook, she found out my address, and then she simply used to write to me. And I was always instructed when I was being reared to write every week to my mother, but I didn't know who my mother was. I was writing to a stranger. I hadn't a clue who she was.
That's actually very open-minded. Now, you were fostered, wasn't it, by a family in Williamstown?
Right. Williamstown, yes.
And obviously you had a lovely childhood.
Great childhood.
And they were very open about keeping in touch and all that.
That's right, that's right. So when she escaped, she went to England, and she kept in contact by writing to me. But, of course, I went to see her then when I was about 18. That was the second time in my life that I'd actually met my mother. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't cope with it. It was just too traumatic. I just wasn't able to deal with it because she was a complete stranger to me. So I gave instructions that I didn't want to see her anymore. And I just ruled her from my life for the best part of 20 years.
And was this resentment at the fact that she had abandoned you, whatever the circumstances, or was it just the fact that you had this very happy, idyllic life with your family, and this stranger was coming in and butting into it and kind of...
Well, she was somebody that I didn't know. I didn't have any love for her because she didn't rear me or anything else like that, and she was very overpowering. She wanted to be close to me, naturally enough. I was her son, whereas I was, after turning 18, and I wanted to face the wide world on my own and go out and have a good time and just wander and do whatever I wanted to do.
Did she ever marry in England?
Yes, she did. She got married when she was about 55. She met a lovely English gentleman, and it's all told in the book, the whole story.
So you have...
From A to Z.
Right.
And that was it, basically. So.
But she continued to write letters all throughout her life?
She continued to write letters all throughout her life.
And these were remarkable letters in that they weren't just detailing what happened to her, but they were detailing how she felt. She was obviously a very literate and literary person.
Yeah, she was. She was a fascinating person in that sense, because when I met up with her, you know. I mean, she used to have these letters, and she continued to write them. Of course, that's one of them that's there in the front cover of the book, exactly as she would have written it. And I suppose that was one of the things that I regret at this stage of my life, that I haven't got more of her letters.
You know the way she'd made such efforts to find you, JP? Did she ever try and find her own family? As Marcus, you know, inquiring there about it, like the way that she was just...
I still can't get over that.
I know, it is...
That nobody made an effort to find out who this child belonged to.
Well, when I was reunited with my mother, she used to sometimes say to me, she said, John, she said, I'd just love, she said, if I could find out, she says, you know, if I had brothers, I'm sure I have brothers and sisters, she said, I always had a feeling, she said, because she said, I was talking to a fortune teller one stage, she said, and she said, you come from a large family. And she said, I'd love to find out, you know, if I had brothers and sisters. So she was coming up to her 70th birthday, and I decided that I'd probably try and trace her roots and surprise her with some good news. This is only like 3 or 4 short years ago. And, you know, I went up to Dublin, spent a few days, done a lot of research and everything else, and I was the one then that found out that she was literally picked up off the streets at that stage. I had the book written. And I was devastated. I couldn't tell her that. I couldn't go back and tell my mother, look, this is what you wear.
How did you even find out? The only reason you knew she was picked up off the streets is that you knew she was detailed as being going into care, that's all?
That's all,
You couldn't find out basically where she came from?
I couldn't find out basically. Well, I think maybe, I suppose, if I wanted to keep digging, but I felt I had dug a deep enough hole, and I didn't want to go any further than that. I just decided that enough was enough. I'd heard what I didn't want to hear, and I had to rise above all that, and it wasn't easy for a few, you know, for 6 or 8 months. It took me a long time to recover from it, the fact that you find out that your mother was begging on the streets. You
were resolved in the end, weren't you?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Okay. Yeah, we had 10 wonderful years together, maybe a bit more, 15.
And this is a testimony to her life. We've had a lot of these stories, JP, but this is a remarkable sort of inside view of what it was like, coming from the person themselves, written articulately and very literally.
Thank you.
So,
well, I decided that I was going to write the story from the inside out, because I think I'd heard so much over the years, and God knows I didn't like what I was hearing from the laundries and everything else. And I wanted to write the story as I knew it. These women were the salt of the earth. If it was in my power, I would have given them a gold medal. So I wrote a story about my mother and 3 of her friends.
Just very quickly, because we're running out of time, but just how were those letters when she was in the laundry? I mean, was she very down and very depressed?
No, she was always upbeat.
Really,
she was always determined to succeed. And she was, you know, she'd say that in the letters, and she'd always believe that she was going to be reunited with me. And I think that was her saving grace.
Must have been so hard.
She was a very, very positive person.
It's remarkable when you think of it that if she had been reared in other circumstances, with her gift, she could have been a famous writer or a journalist or something.
Yeah, I believe she would.
And
I'd like to think that I inherited some of that ability from her.
Okay, it's called For the Love of My Mother. It's by J.P. Rodgers, and it is a fascinating read, and it's possibly one that you might need a box of Kleenex with when you're I think you might shed a tear or two. But that's not such a bad thing either, you know? We'll take a break now. Thank you very much, sir, for coming in and telling us.
Thank you.
See you back here in a couple of minutes.
Thank you.